Hello and welcome to my green portion of my Modern Horizons 3 limited set review. Still on the couch here. Still not in the usual location, but that's okay. We're persevering to bring you the limited set review coverage that is good for me, honestly. Like to be honest with you, the set reviews they really help me a lot in terms of, just knowing what the cards do on day one, being a better player and whatnot. So it is really nice to do them. It does help selfishly as well. If you haven't been here for one of the set reviews, these are the tiers I use to grade cards. They're a little bit different, maybe than some of the way other people grade cards. I like them. I think they're simple. The tiers allow for a little bit more discussion. There's a little bit less. Oh, my grade's this, so it means this. I think they allow a little bit more room for maneuvering, and I kind of like that. So feel free to take a look at these before we get started. And I'm just going to start with the cards. And the first one is Annoyed Altasaur. 5 green, green for a 6/5 with Reach and Trample and Cascade. So, I mean, this is like, when we're starting with a 7 drop, it's really hard for a 7 drop to be, higher than this. Like, tier 3 is kind of like big creature. Now in green in this format, it is possible, right? Green is doing some ramp related stuff. It's not completely unfathomable to me that this is going to be actually like 7 mana, and then there's payoffs for casting 7 mana spells, and this is a good 7 mana spell. Do I think it's amazing? No. Um, Cascade has diminishing returns the higher up the curve you get. Cascade on Bloodbraid Elf, basically my sweet spot for Cascade is 5 Emoti. Emoti is kind of my sweet spot, a 5 mana Cascader. Because 4 is kind of like a good best case scenario to hit, and your average case scenario is still pretty much the same, and you're getting better value for what you're doing. So all that being said, um, yeah, it's high rolly, right? It's a high rolly card. Sometimes you're going to win the game when you cast it and you hit like a 6 drop. Great, happy for you. It is impactful in the sense that it has reach and trample, so it's going to block okay. But it also just kind of dies and it misses sometimes. So yeah, I mean you can play this card. I don't think it's premium by any stretch of the imagination. Basking Brood-Scale. 1 green mana for 2/2 with Devoid. It has 1 green to adapt 1, and whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, you may create a 1/1 or a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token. Um, this looks fine. No, I mean, the +1/+1 counters thing. Like, there are ways to put counters on stuff multiple times that aren't just adapt, but they don't really play super well with the make Eldrazi spawn stuff. Like, it doesn't really play well together. Um, Paying 2 mana to turn your 2 drop into a 3/3. I guess it's 1 mana because you're getting the Eldrazi, which gives you the mana back. Okay. I'm just not excited about this. Like, I think this is closer to a 2/2 vanilla than not. But not, not again. No shade towards this card. I'm going to play this card. I'm sure at some point during the format. I'm just not excited about it. Birthing Ritual. 1 green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from one of those cards onto the battlefield, where X is 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I have put this in tier 4. However, I mean, this is one of those cards. It's never going to be tier 1. It's never going to be premium. But, there's going to be spots where this is just like, you know, you could kind of build around this. You could have ones that are like, hey, this is a small, cheap ETB creature, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna go fetch like my 3 drop with this and whatever. And you don't. The nice thing is you don't have. There's a couple of good things. You don't have to do the thing. You get to see what you would be able to put into play before you have to make the decision. If you have multiple, like you get to choose which creature to sacrifice. You can choose to not sacrifice a creature. With all that being said, this is a 2 mana enchantment that does not impact the board in any way unless you have other creatures. So that is a huge liability, and I don't think it's going to perform well statistically. Is it a very fun card? Yes. Is it a sweet card? Yes. Is there actually a dream to be lived with this card? I think so. I do think that there is like some scenarios where you're going to be able to be like, okay, we're going to do some birthing potty stuff. It does need a lot of help, and it's not perfect, but I, I think it's going to like again, birthing pod. I don't think was a good limited card. I think this is actually a better limited card than birthing pod. Yeah, I don't think it's like that much better, but I think it is better um, than the pod, just because it's a lot cheaper and doesn't cost money. But whatever. But yeah, not exciting. I think, but interesting. Not exciting, but interesting. A card that is not interesting. Branching Evolution. 2 and a green for an enchantment. If one or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, twice that many counters you put on it. Instead, yes, there's a bunch of counter stuff going on in the set, but this card doesn't. This is 3 mana. Don't do anything. Don't play it. Bridgeworks Battle. 2 and a green for a sorcery. This is an MDFC. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights one target creature you don't control. And of course, we have the untapped land for 3 mana on the backside. Yeah, I mean, this is Savage Smash that is also a land. Savage Smash is a very good spell. I personally, the way I evaluate MDFCs is if I am happy with the spell side, then I am putting it in tier 2. And if I am not happy with the spell side in all situations, I'm putting it in tier 3. And that's kind of how it goes. Um, yep. So like just having a solid removal spell that is also a land is really really strong, and this is a really strong way to do that. So I imagine that this is fairly good. Collective Resistance. 1 and a green for an instant with Escalate for a green mana. You may destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, and target creature gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So we have seen historically that paying 2 mana for hexproof and indestructible is not worth it. However, 2 mana destroy an artifact, 2 mana destroy an enchantment. Those are okay. There are going to be considerable numbers of artifacts in this set, especially if red is a good color, which I expect it to be. Um, so I don't think it's crazy to main deck this, and it may end up just being a good card for that reason of just like, yeah, I mean, it turns out there's like it could turn out like, oh well, red is just the best color or whatever. So like we I don't know what the best color is. Red certainly has a call of being the best color, but this card I think you know it is strong in some situations, but I think overall probably still not what I want to be taking early in my draft. Colossal Dreadmask. 4 green for a living weapon equipment. Equipped creature gets +6/+6 and has trample, and it is equipped with 3 green. Yeah, this is sweet. So we saw essentially this in for actually the Albi one. That was 6 mana. That was a 2/2 that had +4/+4 and trample. I think it may also have had reach. I don't remember. That was an equip for I think also 5. Maybe it was 6. But this is better than that for several reasons. Well, it's not just better, but I think it is better overall. The equipment is larger, um, which means that once your opponent deals with the creature, uh, this thing is going to give more stats than the other equipment did. Trample is really nice. I mean, 6 mana, 6/6 trample is not amazing. Again, I have this in tier 3. I don't think it's amazing or anything. In a Modern Horizons set, whatever. It is a 6 mana spell that is relevant in some cases. It should be a little bit easier to cast than usual. It is a large thing that impacts the board. It is an artifact. A lot of cool stuff going on here, but I don't think anything super exciting. Essentially, it's kind of where I've come to. That's where I'm at on Colossal Dreadmask. Disciple of Freyalise. 3 and 3 green mana for an elf druid. There's also an MDFC. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you gain X life and draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. So, I mean, this is one of those cards that, again, is a land like 90% of the time, but at least the spell side of it is extremely powerful. Like if you're in like a stalled board state, you sacrifice a 3/3, gain 3, draw 3. You've put yourself pretty ahead, right? That's that's pretty good. Like, that's a pretty big thing to be doing. Now, again, mostly a land. That's fine. It is triple pipped on the backside. Again, triple pip, it's so much less of a problem when something's triple pipped when you can just play it as a land because you don't have to worry so much. Uh, Now this is one I could be wrong about this one. This is one of the ones I'm least certain is a tier 2 MDFC. This one could end up being a little bit worse, but I do like it. I think it's good. I think it is worse than the one that is a Savage Smash, but whatever. Worse, but within the same tier is kind of how I feel about it. Eladomri Corvictol. One green for a 3/3. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Pretty good. You pay green and tap it. Two untapped creatures you control reveal a card from your hand to the top card of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, put it onto the battlefield. Activate only during your turn. Yeah, so like you can play an enormous. Like if you somehow make that last ability do something great, but it probably isn't doing something. This is mostly a 3/3 that allows you to cast creatures from the top of your library, which is good. But you'll notice I don't have it in tier 1. Why do I not have it in tier 1? Well, A, it's inconsistent. Um, sometimes you're going to play this on 3 and you're just going to see a sorcery on top. Or you're just going to see a couple of lands. It's just not going to quite work out the way you want. You don't like the top of your deck does not always like just perfectly curve you out. You know what I mean? And spending mana is very good. Another thing is that it is double pipped. So it's going to be tough to cast on 3. Not impossible, but tough, especially in a set where you do have like colorless mana producers as things that are like that you want. So like your mana is going to be, I think, actually a little bit worse in this set, especially in green. Like green is kind of like got some mana problems. I feel like. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Still a good card, still plenty good. Whatever. Going to have some games where it feels unbeatable, but I think in the average case, it's going to just be kind of like a good card, but not amazing. Eldrazi Repurposer. 2 green for a 3/3. When you cast this spell and when it dies, create a 0/1 Eldrazi creature token. Yeah, I mean this is just sick. I mean I don't think it's. I mean I put it in tier 1. That's probably too high. Whatever. The thing is, like, getting an you're getting 3 pieces of material. You get something when it dies. It is an Eldrazi. It's colorless. It works with all your Eldrazi payoffs. It is going to make 2 things. I mean, I really like this. I should move it down to tier 2. Hold on, one moment. Yeah, I mean, tier 1's a little aggressive, but like I do really like this card. I think it is very strong and all that, but just the fact that it makes 2 tokens and one of them can make mana for you is very strong. I just think this fits in like a lot of decks and it does a lot of good stuff. Evolution Witness. 2 green for a 2/1 with adapt 2 for 1 green. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on evolution, in this return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. So, yeah, I mean, it's nice. You can say it's like also 5 mana, 4/3 that returns something. Okay, that's kind of like what the flyer was in the last set. Now that card had flying and vigilance, so maybe a little bit better. But this one has the upside of, well, if you have other ways to put +1/+1 counters on it, you can get multiple things, and you can also play this as a 3-drop and like on turn 4 get something back if you really want to. Not super high upside, but I think this is going to be a decent card. I don't think it's going to be great, but decent. Fanatic of Rojas. 1 green for a 1/4 with the ability to tap to add a green mana. It has Ferocious to tap to add 4 green mana, and you activate only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, and Eternalize for 2 green. So this is just a completely sick like mana elf, right? So like this is the deal is, it's a 2 mana 1/4, which is already pretty big. That's large for a mana dork. You get to add green, fine. If you make something with power 4 or greater, which there isn't a ton of, like there's not as much as, even in the last set where it was a sub theme. I guess it was a full on theme. There's not as much of it in this set, but it's not like it's so difficult to imagine having a creature with power 4 or greater. You could, what can happen is on like turn 4, you play a 4-drop that has power 4, and then you tap this for 4 mana and do something else. Like that's just a crazy amount of mana to be making. It's not the easiest thing to kill. When you kill it, it gets to come back as a 4/4 that just taps for 4 mana because you have a power because you power 4 or greater. So yeah, this card is just really sweet. It just provides a lot of value. It's really good at every stage of the game, unless you like draw it and whatever. Fangs of Kelowna. 1 and a green for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature that had a +1/+1 counter put on it this way. And you can overload this and put a bunch of counters on all your team. Dude, I think this is terrible, but because again, it's another card like cards that rely on you having a wide board. I'm inherently skeptical of. There are lots of ways to go wide in green in this set. There's a bunch of ways, things that make a bunch of Eldrazi tokens. So maybe 6 mana, like it is kind of overrun-ish. It does work with other counters. Like if you've had other counters on things, this will double the counters and makes your stuff even bigger. I just think that the upfront version of this is so bad. Like maybe the better way to think about this card is, oh, it's 6 mana, put 2++1 counters on each creature you control. It's like, well, is that even good? It's okay. It's not good. Yeah, I'm just not excited about this. There is again, there's the things that triggered off of having additional counters put on them. So maybe there's a spot for this, there, but not. I don't think it's going to be great in the average deck. Flare of Cultivation. 1 green for a sorcerer. You may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put one in the middle onto the battlefield tapped, the other into your hand and shuffle. Yeah, I mean this is just cultivate. Cultivate, I think, is a good limited card, not anything special, but a good limited card, right? It's a divination that puts a land in play. Not unhappy about that. This is a set. Green is trying to go big, like especially big. It's trying to do some ramp elements, whatnot. So there are big spells you want to cast. This helps you cast your big spells. It makes you hit your land drops, continuously. Beware of it being tilt pipped, which is not good, but so you got to do what you got to do. And yeah, Foul Strike. 1 and a green, instant. Destroy target creature with flying. Reinforce for 2 and a green. I hate this art so much, but it's fine. Like really hate it, but it's fine. Don't like the reinforce part is like it's a 3 mana combat trick that also allows you to destroy a creature with flying. Honestly, there just aren't that many creatures with flying, so yeah, you don't want like this. And the reinforce mode is so bad. Like just don't do this. You don't need to do this. Yes, it does enable some counter synergies and stuff. I hate these type of effects, and I'm not gonna be excited about this one either. Gift of the Viper. Single green mana for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter, reach counter, and death touch counter on target creature. Untap it. I should move this up to tier 3. The thing about this card is it's not Snakeskin Veil, so I hate it. But I think we've seen enough of these tricks that are one. So yeah, I moved it up a tier. I do think again there's just enough +1/+1 counter synergy stuff that I think I do actually like this pretty consistently in most of my green decks. The death touch, getting to keep all these abilities afterwards is nice. Sometimes you get to keep actually just gonna blow somebody out with this. It is only 1 mana, so yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Grist Voracious Larva. Single green mana for 1/2 death touch. When it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it enters from your graveyard or you cast it from your graveyard, you may pay single green mana. If you do, exile Grist and return to the battlefield, transfer to its owner's control. Transfers into a Planeswalker. 3 loyalty, you can +1 to make an insect token and mill 2 cards and put a death touch counter on the token if a black card was milled this way. You get -2 to destroy an artifact or enchantment, and you get -6 to make a bunch of tokens and stuff in your graveyard. This is really hard to transform. Like I do want to be very clear about that, but 1 mana 1/2 death touch is, it's kind of big. Like it's kind of large. It attacks, blocks. It's solid, and there are ways to get things out of your graveyard in black specifically. But if you're in green black, you can actually flip this, and it is actually like a thing that can happen. So I don't think it's crazy to be able to actually enable this. It is not just banger or whatever, all world amazing. I think it's fine. Horrific Assault. It's no green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power. Target creature you don't, or planeswalker you don't control. If you control an Eldrazi, you gain 3 life. You're going to be gaining 3 life in green almost every time. I would say probably like 60% of the time, 65, something like that. Yeah, like you're just like 1 mana bite spell that gains 3 life. This is probably green's best common. We have the bite spell that is clear shot, but slightly better. That is contending, but this is 1 mana and gains life, so probably this one's better. This is a sorcery, so again, there's lots of like different places to be, but yeah, this looks pretty good to me. Hydra Traina. 1 and a green for a 1/1. It may exert it when it attacks. When you do, target creature gets +X until end of turn. X is the number of +1 of counters on permanents you control. There are several types of counters. And you can adapt 2 on this. The problem is that it is a 2 mana 1/1, and it has to exert to do the thing. Not super exciting to me. I feel like this is just it's too swingy, right? Like, yes, sometimes you're going to be like, oh, this attacks as like a 4/4, okay, and like whatever. If you adapt 2 on it, maybe it's big, and then it doesn't. Your opponent can just chump. The problem with exert sometimes is that if it doesn't generate value or make it hard for your opponent to block, in a lot of cases they can just go, all right, chump, and I'm only chumping once, and I'm like chumping at half the rate that I need to be normally, and this has to attack. I'm not excited about this at all. Lion Umbra. Green for a enchant modified creature. Enchanted creature has +3/+3 and has vigilance and reach and Umbra armor. So if you destroy it, it gets removed. This aura just gets removed instead. A lot of things working against this card too. So 1, it's an aura. 2, it costs 2 green pips. 3, it only enchants modified creatures. So there's just a lot of restrictions there. The effect is good. +3/+3 vigilance reach, pretty good. Like for 2 mana, that's a pretty good deal. It's really like 3 mana because of the cost, and there's ways to get around Umbra armor. Like there's balance effects. There's exile. I just don't think it does enough in modern limited that it is still a great ability. Obviously, creatures still mostly die, but I'm not seeing it with this. I'm really not seeing it. Like, it is easy to have modified creatures, but the problem is that this having to target a modified creature is just not. It means that it's not going to be on the thing you want all the time. Malevolent Rumble. 1 and a green for a sorcery. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard. Create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this creature. Add colorless mana. Yeah, this looks really sweet to me. So it's Impulse. You only get permanents. That's fine. You're in green. You probably mostly want permanents. You also just make an Eldrazi, which essentially is making a mana. It's pretty good. It's a mana. It's a token. It's an Eldrazi. It's all the things you want in green. And it's only 2 mana. You can just this is a great 2-drop basically. Like, I see this and I'm like, great 2-drop. Really happy to play this on turn 2. And I get some card selection, in the late game, and you're filtering and finding your good cards. Seems really strong. A really strong card to have access to. Monsters Vortex. 3 and a green for enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, discover X or X that spell's mana value. The enchantment does not do anything when it enters the battlefield, and so it is bad. That is a bit of an over exaggeration, but yeah, I mean, there isn't that much stuff with power 5 or greater to begin with. Like there are things that have power 5 or greater, and they are green, but even the expensive creatures in this set don't have power 5 or greater enough of the time that this is actually like something you can build around and be functional. Does some cool stuff when it works, but it just doesn't. Like, okay, I was thinking about this, right? The first discover trigger is not worth it. Like 4 mana discover 4 or discover 5. You wouldn't play that card, right? So if this discovered 5 up front, you would be like not all that excited. Does it equal to mana value? I don't know. It's so I don't like this card roll. Nothing I like about it. Okay. Nightshade Dryad. 1 and a green for a 1/2 with Death Touch. You can tap it to add colorless mana, or you can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Yep, really strong. Makes colorless mana. There's several things that care about colorless mana. This is perfect. Like you know, really, this is really like, you're gonna want this in a lot of decks. Um, it has the typical mana dork problem of being somewhat irrelevant later on in the game, but I think that the fact that it makes colorless mana and the fixing isn't quite as good in this set as an OTJ. You'll like it. It's a nice card. I don't think it's like a huge priority, but I think it's good. Nyxborn Hydra. X and a green for a 0/1 with reach and trample. It has enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. It has bestow for X green. And enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Nyxborn Hydra and has reach and trample. So this is a really sweet card. Obviously, it's not really a 2-drop, right? So, 2 mana 1/2 is not good. But I mean, it's easy to imagine, the value generated by this card, right? Of just, on turn like 4, even on turn 4, just being like, okay, I'm gonna bestow this for 2 and 2 green, give my thing +2/+2 reach and trample. When that thing dies, this becomes a 2/2 with reach and trample. That's not. I mean, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal. I like this quite a bit. It is the one problem is it's not really it's not a cheap spell. It's kind of more of an expensive curve piece. It does feel like you can just play it. Like a 3-mana 2/3 is not really like reasonable, but like a 4-mana like we kind of saw this with Goldvein Hydra, where it was like, oh, just getting that extra, and this thing kind of has haste too in some ways. That's part of the reason I like it. Just kind of big, Path of Annihilation. 3 and a green for an enchantment with Devoid. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens with the ability to add mana, and you can also tap them with the enchantment in play to add 1 mana of any color. And whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, you gain 4 life. So the problem with this, in similar effects, is that you just can't play that many 7-drops in your deck. You really just can't. I know that this set, makes it easier to cast them, but even still, it's so hard to because you run into the problem of I drew all my big spells and didn't draw any of my ramp, or I drew all my ramp and I didn't draw any of my big spells. You really do need to have a mix, and limited is just not a great place to have a hollowed out curve. You really kind of want to have stuff all along the curve so that your draws are good and you have sort of the ability to play at any stage of the game and whatnot. So the ramp and big stuff payoff stuff I'm very skeptical of. This does at least make 2 things that make mana. When you cast it, fine. I don't know. I'm not excited. I'm just not excited. Priest of Titania, 1 and a green for a 1/1, and it adds a green mana for each elf on the battlefield. This includes your opponent's elves, which, probably doesn't matter. But, I mean, it's a mana elf. It's, not completely unplayable. There are elves in the set. It's not as if this isn't going to tap for 2 mana some percentage of the time. I don't think you, super want it, but it's not unplayable either. Primal Prayers, recent, an interesting one. 2 green for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. You may cast creature spells with mana value 3 or less by paying energy rather than paying their mana cost. If you cast a spell this way, you may cast it as a head flash. So, to make this work, you need to have it in your hand and 2 3-mana creature spells for this to be worth it. And even then, you're probably just breaking even. Yes, you give your stuff flash, your opponent can't play around certain things, it's tough for them. Instant speed interaction does exist is the problem. It's not like there's not ways to interact, you know what I mean, with your opponent's stuff that they flash in, even if it doesn't originally have flash. And this enchantment just seems really slow to me. Green isn't really doing stuff with energy for the most part, which I think makes the color kind of bad. bad. Like, don't tell anybody, but like I'm like a little concerned. So yeah, I'm you know, I think we made it back to the dog days of green here. We'll see. Propagator drone. One on a green for a 2/2 with devoid. Creature tokens you control have evolve. And you can pay 3 and a green to make a Eldrazi spawn token. Obviously, if you have a bunch of stuff that is, in play and you cast this and it pumps all of them, it's very good. It's like, oh my god, I did the thing. But, you kind of want your 2 mana creatures to be, good on turn 2. Paying 4 to make an Eldrazi spawn token, I think, is a horrendous deal, and you don't ever want to do it. So I think this is more of a vanilla 2/2 than maybe even you would, think that it would be, right? Like, I don't see it as being great. Signature Slam. 2 and a green for an instant. Put its +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then each modified creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you control. Yeah, this is really sweet. It's an upgrade on Clear Shot. I said not much of an upgrade. That's wrong. It's a pretty significant upgrade. Getting a +1/+1 counter. We just saw how good that is on whatever it's called. Throw from the saddle. Yeah, I mean, sweet card. I mean, I don't know why we have to be doing the like gorilla wrestling thing, but like here we are, I guess. Yeah, this is really good removal. 6. 2 and a green for a 2/4 with reach. When it attacks, you mill 3 cards. You can put a land card from one of them into your hand as long as it's your turn. Non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. So it fuels itself, right? You can be like, oh, I'll attack, get a land, discard my land to cast a spell from my graveyard. Really good, but it is a 3-mana 2/4 reach just by itself, and that doesn't really do anything. It has to attack. 2/4s attack, okay, but not the best. I think this is a good card, generates some value, but not the most exciting. Sowing Myco Spawn. 3 and a green for a 3/3 with devoid, and kicker for 1 and a green for 1 and a colorless. Then you cast the spell, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. And if you kick it, exile target. So this is really sweet. Obviously, in the mid to late game, you're going to kick this, and you're going to get to Stone Rain your opponent and be like, yeah, I'm out here. I'm here. Now you should never do that. Probably on turn 4, you're supposed to just go right. I'm going to ramp. My 4-mana 3/3 gets a land. That's really good. That's a strong thing to be doing. So that's really strong. And then sometimes you get to sometimes you get to blow up your opponent's land, and they're stuck on mana, and they just concede instantly. So it does cost 6 total mana to get there, but that's not unachievable. You could definitely get to 6. I could see a world where you get 6 mana, turn 5, turn 4, it's definitely achievable. Springheart Nantuko. 1 and a green for a 1/1 with Bestow for 1 and a green. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 and a green if this is attached to a creature you control. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature. If you didn't create a token this way, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. So this card's really sick. You don't really want to play this on turn 2. I think it's just probably way too bad. You could, because you're just making a 1/1 every turn you play a land, and that's fine. It's okay. I could see that being something that's like reasonable. I mean, there's just so many possibilities with this card. There are fetch lands in this. There are fetch lands, and there are like uncommon fetch lands in this set. On like turn 4 or 5, you can bestow this onto something and then just make 2 copies of it with a fetch land, and it's just like crazy. And then when you kill the thing, this thing still is in play and makes like more tokens off of like it's just it's hard to get out from under this card. Like it's really hard to get out from under this card. But yeah, so I think it's just super strong. Yeah, that's how I feel about Springheart Nantuko. Sylvan Safekeeper single, green mana for a 1/1. Sacrifice a land target creature you control gains Shroud until end of turn. Too low impact and regular limited. A lot of games are not decided by your opponent trying to remove your stuff. If you really have high impact stuff, maybe, but it's not a completely unplayable card. It's just a 1 mana 1/1. Sacrificing your lands is a big cost. Yes, it means your opponent like basically can't target any of your stuff. Cool. I don't know. Like it just is kind of worse than it looks. I think freedom isn't free in many ways, right? Like it just isn't. You just can't. It, you, needing to have something really strong to make this card okay is not really where I want to be, right? Temperamental Oozewag. 3 and a green for a 4/4. Adapt for 2 for 2 and a green, and modified creatures you control have trample. It's just a very medium card. It makes your stuff that's on the board that's already modified have trample. That can matter in some cases. Adapt 2, sure, fine. Relevant in the later stages of the game. Totally playable card, but not exciting anyway. Territory Color. 4 and a green for a 7/5 with reach. It is devoid. As landfall. When a land enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it, put it in your hand. If you don't put that card in your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. So this is really big. Like it's a 5 mana 7/5 reach. Like that's huge. The landfall ability is really good, but this is one of those cards where you're probably just going to play it on 5 and maybe not necessarily try to get the value immediately. Yeah, if you have another 5-drop, maybe. It's fine. To me, this kind of falls in tier 3 because it's a 5 mana spell, and there's just other stuff you can do for 5 mana that's probably stronger than this. But if your deck, if you have 13, 12 creatures, you're somewhere around 30%, 35% to hit a creature. It's it can be okay. You can also put it in the graveyard. It's a surveil. I don't know. Hunger Tide Rises. 2 and a green for a saga. For the first 3 chapters, you create a 1/1 black and green such creature token. And for the 4th chapter, you can sacrifice any number of creatures and search your library or graveyard for a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of creatures sacrificed this way and put it on the battlefield. Yeah, I mean, when you think about this as just, 3 mana, make 3 1/1s over a couple of turns, I think that's okay. And that's kind of how I'm viewing this. And then sometimes, you have something busted in your deck. You have a busted rare or something. And, you can go tutor it up for, this, and it's worth it. There will be times when it's worth it, and there will be times when it's not worth it. Most of the time, it's not going to be worth it, but I think this card's playable. Like, I don't think it's bad. Like, just the what you're getting is, 3 tokens and an enchantment. There are ways to like balance and reset enchantments and whatnot. Like you can, there's a bunch of ways to just like keep making like not infinite but a ton of like insect tokens with this, and I think that's kind of an interesting thing to do. Thief of Existence. 1 colorless mana and a green for a 3/4 is devoid. When you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target non-creature, non-land permanent. An opponent controls a mana value 4 or less. If you do, okay, actually, wait a minute. I thought this was good hit creatures. Hold on, 1 second. I misread the first card the first time. I thought this could exile creatures, and I was like, "Whoa, it's amazing!" But actually, no, it can only hit non-creatures. And so I bumped it down a full tier. But there are plenty of non-creatures in this format that you will want to remove and like banish your priest. And it's 3 mana 3/4. So, and it's an Eldrazi. So it's got types, it's got all the stuff you want. I do think it's still a good card. I just don't think it's uber busted. I was like, oh my god, it's crazy busted. It connects. It's freaking oh my god. But no, it's not. It's just normal good. It's just good. Okay, it's just a good card. Trickster's Elk, not a good card. 2 and a green for a 3/3. That's probably fine. With Bestow for 1 and a green. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3. So yes, you can turn your opponent's thing into a 3/3, and then when your opponent's thing dies, you get a 3/3. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. I just feel like they, they, they still have a 3/3. Like you're still paying mana to give them a 3/3. Like they still have it. It's not like there's not ways to remove enchantments in this set. You're spending mana to not get rid of their thing. Yes, eventually you get a thing back, but I don't know. This doesn't seem worth it to me? I'm not excited about it. Wirewood Symbiote, single green mana for a 1/1. Return an elf you control to its owner's hand, untap target creature. Activate only once per turn. Not enough elves for this to work. It doesn't do anything in limited. This is not for limited. It's just it's too, it's just not. This is for constructed. And the final green card, Wumpus Aberration. 300 green for a 6/6 with Devoid. When you cast the spell, if colorless mana wasn't spent to cast it, target opponent may put a creature card from their hand onto the battlefield, and it is trample. So 4 mana 6/6 trample is very big. You do need to pay colorless for it. Do not, unless you have seen your opponent's hand, don't not pay colorless mana for it. But if you're paying colorless mana and green has plenty of ways to generate colorless mana, this is really good. It's a rate monster. It's big. It's huge. Attacks and blocks, all that good stuff. It has trample. Cool. So that's it. That's it for green. Hope you enjoyed. Stick around. There's more. There's more set reviews for this set. So go watch those if you like this one. That's it. I'll see you next time.